This is the read aloud for Chapter 2, Lesson 4, Sedimentary Rocks. How do sedimentary rocks form? The banks of a cool stream may be made up of tiny grains, mud, and pebbles. Shells, leaves, and even bones may also be mixed in. All of these particles are examples of sediment. Think of the crumbs on your kitchen table when you're done eating. Sediment is small solid pieces of material that come from rocks or living things. Sedimentary rocks form when sediment is deposited by water and wind, as shown in Figure 1. Most sedimentary rocks are formed through a sequence of processes: weathering, erosion, deposition, compactation, and cementation. These are what we just talked about, all of these ways. So pretend that you have a loaf of bread and you start scraping the bread off and the crumbs end up on your table, and then you sweep them on the floor. And then the next meal you have cookies and milk and your cookies get all crumbly and you wipe those on the floor. And you don't vacuum your floor for a week in your kitchen, and all of your meals and all of the crumbs and all of the leftovers, they get piled up. So that is the example of things getting weathered and washed away. They get deposited, they get smushed together, and then they really get smushed together. So things will pile up in layers. Weathering and erosion. Rocks on Earth's surface is continually broken up by weathering. The effects of freezing and thawing, plant roots, acid, and other forces of rock. After the rock is broken up, the fragments are carried away as a result of erosion. So weathering is the breaking down, erosion is the carrying away. The process by which running water, wind, and ice carry away bits of broken rock. Deposition, they get deposited. You deposit money into your bank. They get deposited in areas of in that environment. Water can carry sediment to a lake or ocean. Here, the material is deposited in layers as it sinks to the bottom. This one's getting deposited in the bottom of the ocean. Here, the minerals deposit in layers as it sinks to the bottom. Deposition is a process by which sediment settles out of the water or wind carrying it away. Compactation. Thick layers of sediment build up gradually over millions of years. The weight of new layers can squeeze older sediments tightly together. The process that presses sediment together is compactation. Cementation. Think of the cement of your sidewalk. While compactation is taking place, some minerals in the rock slowly dissolve in the water. Cementation is the process in which dissolved materials crystallize and glue particles of sediment together. So first you have weathering and erosion, then you have deposition, so you can write these words in the boxes, then you have compactation, then cementation. So these are the order, just like that. And page 72. What are the three major types of sedimentary rocks? Geologists classify sedimentary rocks according to the type of sediment that makes up the rock. The three major groups of sediment that make up rock are sedimentary rocks that are clastic, there's organic and chemical rocks. Different processes form each of these types of rock. Clastic rocks are sedimentary rocks that form from particles of other rocks. Most sedimentary rocks are made up of broken pieces of other rocks. The classic rock is the sedimentary rock formed when rock fragments are squeezed together. The rock fragments can range in size from clay particles that are too small to be seen without a microscope, or without a microscope, to large, heavy boulders. So they're very different in shape and size. Clastic rocks are grouped by the size of the rock fragments or particles of which they're made. Some clastic rocks, like in Figure 2, are made of shale, sandstone, conglomerate, and breccia. Shale forms from tiny particles of clay. So we have all these little bits of clay, maybe here, or here, we'll find out. Sandstone forms from the sand on the beaches, the ocean floor, riverbeds, and sand dunes. Most of particles consist of quartz. Some classic sedimentary rocks contain rock fragments that are of different sizes. If the fragments have rounded edges, they form conglomerate. Fragments with sharp edges form breccia. So rock fragments with sharp edges, rock fragments with rounded edges, Small holes between the sand grains allow sandstone to absorb water. And fossils are often found in shale, which tends to split into soft pieces. So we are going to try and match these together while we are in our Zoom class. And we will do that in our book. You can do it on your own currently if you would like to. 73. Organic rocks may be familiar with the rocks called coal and limestone, as shown in Figure 3. Both are sedimentary rocks, but instead of forming from particles of other rocks, they form from the remains of materials that are once living. Organic rock forms when there are remains of plants and animals are deposited in layers, such as the bottom of the ocean. The term organic refers to substances that once were part of living things or were made by living things. Coal forms from the remains of swamp plants buried in water. As layer upon layer form, the plant's remains build up. The weight of the layers squeeze the decaying plants together. Over millions of years, they slowly change into coal. Limestone forms in the ocean, where many living things such as corals, clams, and oysters have hard shells or skeletons made up of calcite. When these ocean animals die, their shells pile up on the ocean floor. Over millions of years, compactation and cementation can change the thick sediment into limestone. Chemical rocks. Limestone can also form when calcite that is dissolved in lakes, seas, and underground water come out of the solution and form crystals. So they rise up and form crystals. This kind of limestone is considered a chemical rock. Chemical rocks form when minerals dissolve in water solution, crystallize. Chemical rocks can also form from mineral deposits that are left when seas or lakes evaporate. For example, rock salt is made up of mineral halite, which forms by evaporation. Page 75. How is sedimentary rock used? People use sedimentary rocks throughout history for many different purposes, including for tools and building materials. So that means it's going to be a strong kind of rock. Chert was used to make spearheads by the people who lived in Pennsylvania more than 10,000 years ago. Other people also made arrowheads out of flint for thousands of years. Flint is a hard rock, yet it can be shaped to a point. It forms when small particles of silica settle out of the water. Sedimentary rocks such as sandstone and limestone have been used as building materials for thousands of years. Both types of stone are soft enough to be cut easily into blocks or slabs. The White House in Washington, D.C. is built of sandstone. Today, builders use sandstone and limestone on the outside walls of buildings, such as the building shown in Figure 4. Limestone is also industrial uses. For example, it's used in making cement and steel. That's a very interesting fact. Thanks for following along. Next, we will read about metamorphic rock. So igneous rock, it was first. Sedimentary rock is broken down bits and pieces of other rock. Thank you for following along.